This card's got some hits, but which one of them will be Rich's picks? What's going on, everyone? It's Rich Haywood here from Bacon Ice Cream Productions and Team RTFC, welcoming you to yet another episode of Good Times with Retro Rich and Fun for Five. That's right, we have made it to Evercade Friday, and it looks so much similar to Atari VCS Thursday. I bet you'd swear that I just recorded the Atari VCS Thursday. And you'd be right, but that's okay. So, we are here to talk about Technos Regular Collection 1. Not Technos Arcade. That's tomorrow. But Technos Collection 1. And there are some super hot bangers on this cartridge today. So I think we're going to be dishing out Rich's picks left and right, but there might be some notable exceptions, and I think we want to dive in and take a look at them and kind of give you which one is going to get the Rich's pick and which one is not. So join me on this short journey through the Technos cart where we look at these 8 titles and find out which ones I recommend for you. All right, let's do this. All right, cool. So there's only 8 games on this cart, so we can actually play around with some of them a little bit, get into them, and then actually have some gameplay going on. So what I'm going to do is right off the bat, I'm going to bring up some of the. I'm probably going to bring up all the games, right? But maybe not go into and play them. First game is Crash and the Boys Street Challenge. Now this one has that like kind of imagine River City Ransom meets Decathlon or Hypersports Challenge or one of those kind of things, right? So it's a whole bunch of different sports mini games with the characters, models, and even the character jumping and mechanics of something like a River City Ransom, just kind of shoehorn into a little sports game. The idea is cool, the idea is sound, but it doesn't necessarily get a Rich's pick because there's too much at least in my head, that gets in the way, and it just doesn't allow me to have an enjoyable experience. So unfortunately, I can't give it a Rich's pick, but there's some people that like this game and, definitely deserving of a place on the collection. So Crash and the Boys, just a little shy of being a Rich's pick. Now we go to Double Dragon. Now, if I haven't had this as a Rich's pick, I don't even know what would be wrong with me. This is one of those seminal games of my childhood. This is totally a Rich's pick. We're going to go in there. We're just going to hit some buttons and we're going to start playing because this game, to me, is like, it takes me right back. It takes me right back to my childhood where I was a little older than you probably think I was. But when I finally got my copy of Double Dragon, I was at my first job at a Toys R Us. I had just gotten some of my paychecks. I went across the street to Funkoland, got myself an NES. And I think the first stack of games that I ever purchased for my NES was a copy of Super Mario 1, 2, and 3, of course, because that's what you gotta get when you get an NES. A copy of Legend of Zelda, a copy of Metroid, a copy of Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, and then I do believe this game was the last game that I purchased in that first set, because I mean, come on, like, you just got to. And why did I like this game so much? Why did I know about this game? It's because I was over at my friend's house when I was growing up. He had an NES. My friend John had an NES, so I would go over there and play this with him. We'd play the 2-player, kind of like a versus match, like, very rudimentary, kind of like Street Fighter kind of thing. And he would just whoop me all the time. And then every once in a while, he'd be bored. He wanted to play something else in his room or whatever. And then, he would I would just get to play, right? And then the more I played this game, the more I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. And this was one of the reasons why I was like begging my parents for an NES. The cool thing though is I did get to experience Double Dragon, but not in this iteration. And why? How even, might you ask? Well, there was, believe it or not, Double Dragon on the Atari 2600, and that is exactly what I had growing up, in Atari 2600. So I was able to get myself a copy of Double Dragon on the Atari 2600 and play that. Not the same as this one, of course, but a cool game nonetheless. So Double Dragon on the Technos Collection, getting a, if I can hit the right buttons, a Rich's pick. Double Dragon 2. Now, we go in here and you think, I'm just going to hit this button and give it an automatic Rich's pick, but you know what? This gets a half pick for me. Why? Because it's just not, it's so good. It is really good, and I want to give it a pick, but it doesn't hit with me. And the reason why I think is because I have such nostalgia and such a good reverence for the first game that the second game, it confuses me, to be honest, right? You've got to make sure you get the directional hitting thing. You got to get used to that, and now it's, it's a game that I can say, hey, this is among it's in the pantheon of really good, arcade style beat 'em ups. And I can definitely see it being a game that would be recommendable, I should say. But I think in this particular case, because this is Rich's picks, right? This is my opinion. I just don't know. Double Dragon's already on the cart. I'm probably going to play Double Dragon 7 times more than I will play Double Dragon 2. Now, will the rest of my friend set tell you something different? Probably. I mean, of course, Pete, he's I think this is one of his favorite games of all time, Double Dragon 2. So, to each their own, right? But half a Rich's pick for sure. And if you're into beat 'em ups in general, obviously a clear recommendation. This whole cart, right? Then we get to Renegade. And I want to really like this game. I do. I really do want to like this game, but it's so brutal for me, for whatever reason, that I just can't get past it. And I can't even give it a half pick. I just can't. Not with good catch. I cannot give it even a half pick. And again, there's some people that I know that will be almost enraged by me saying this, but I just can't do it. I just can't do it. It's a cool game, and I get it, but it's just so unforgiving for me anyway. Maybe it's a case of get good, right? But for me, I just can't do it. But Renegade is, again, another one of those classic beat 'em ups. Like it's in the pantheon. People know the name. If you like beat 'em ups, I mean, this cart is just chock full, right? Then we get to River City Ransom. And River City Ransom automatically gets a Rich's pick. It is a classic game. I didn't get to play this game very much growing up, but I did have it. For whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't play this much, but it is such a fun little game. And it's got so much charm. You've got these characters, and they're running around. It's like street fights in like high school and the shopping mall, and like just random streets. And like every time you beat somebody, they've got these weird quips. You could pick people up and toss them. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on, and there's like RPG light features in this game. There's there's a true world that you can wander around in. There's different varied levels that you can go to that have different characters that are tougher than others. You can go and purchase different things at shops and upgrade your character. It's just a really cool game. It's a really cool and an in-depth game that I think deserves your time to look at. It's definitely a neat one. And the other thing that I have to say about the Technos games is the soundtracks on most of these games are just straight VGM goodness. You can just grab a hold of any of the VGM tracks at almost any of these titles, even the ones that I don't really recommend, and just slap them in, your MP3 dock on your phone, and just have a good time listening, because there's some really great music on these collections, and I think that's really what makes some of these games memorable too. I mean, come on, the Double Dragon NES soundtrack I think is ingrained in most people's heads. For those of you that had played it way back in the day, it's like one of the first things that you remember about turning on most of these NES games, right? You see the set title screen, and then you remember, just automatically you remember the theme, and it brings you back. And River City Ransom is no different. It's got a great soundtrack, great feel. It's just a fun game, so that's why it gets a Rich's pick. All right, cool. So then we're going to go to Super Dodge Ball. And Super Dodge Ball is a Rich's pick. Why? Because it's just so weird and quirky. Am I good at this game? Not really. Is this game a game that that is one of those games that I can play and do really well at? No, not really. Does this game perform well under the circumstances? Again, not really. However, it is still fun to just kind of it is fun just to kind of mess around with and play. It is a neat experience. I don't know what it is about it. I mean, it's dodgeball, right? How do you think they'd make an NES game about a game like this? And it's such a shame because there's so many characters on the screen that the poor coders, I guess, just didn't know how to handle this, and it wound up being one of those situations where the game kind of suffers for it, right? I mean, you can barely see the characters on the screen just messing around, but at the same time, you can have a good time playing this game, which is the reason why this gets a Rich's pick. And again, you can hear in the background that soundtrack is just so awesome. It's a really, all these tracks are really hot. They're really you can get your groove and have a good time. So Super Dodgeball gets a Rich's pick, even though I'm terrible at this game. Super Double Dragon is the Super Nintendo next level of all these things. Now I kind of want to just drop it and give it a Rich's pick, but I think I need to make the point that this is definitely a half pick, for sure. But if I had to pick one of the 3 Double Dragon games to fully recommend, it's always going to be Double Dragon 1 on the NES. I don't know why, it just is. But this game is awesome. Don't get me wrong, this game is awesome, and I think you guys should play it. But as far as I'm concerned, if I'm picking one, I'm picking Double Dragon 1 over Super and over Double Dragon 2. And then there's Super Spike V-Ball, which is another cool game that I will also give a half pick to. Is it better, in my opinion, than something like Super Dodgeball? No, I think if I had to pick between V-Ball and Dodgeball, I'm going to pick Super Dodgeball over Super Spike Speedball, and I think it's just because I like the wackiness of Dodgeball over the volleyball game. But again, this one, if you're into the sports games, Super Spike Speedball probably is the better playing game. It actually plays a little better than Dodgeball, just for me on my pick list. If I have to pick between the two, and I think that's how I'm going to weigh these, and might continue to do that moving forward. I'm picking Dodgeball over V-Ball on this card. If I've got this one, and it's the only one I have to play, I'm probably playing Dodgeball more than V-Ball, because I don't know, like maybe I want to get better at it. So anyway, that was the Technos Collection, where we thought we were going to have richest picks galore, but we wound up actually only having 3 full picks on this whole collection at all. And that's Double Dragon 1, that's River City Ransom, and Super Dodgeball. So let's go to the wrap up and see what we think about that. All right, guys. So that was Technos Collection 1 on the Evercade via the Evercade VS, and we have successfully gone through all of those games, and I've given you what my richest picks were. So what do you guys think of the picks and how I did this particular card? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down below in the comments. I mean, I know I'm probably going to be touching nerves left and right. You know, like, how dare you don't pick XYZ game or whatever. Just remember, this is the picks that I'm picking for if somebody asks me, hey, I just got Technos 1. What do I play first? Those are the first 3 games I'm going to recommend playing. Does it mean that the other games aren't going to be games that these people are going to enjoy and fall in love with? Of course not. But those are mine. Those are mine. And when I put the cartridge in on the handheld or the VS, they're all 3 of those games are the first one that I play over anything else. So will that change over time? Who knows? Because we'll probably go and revisit them sometime later. And I think, you know, again, after the series is over, after I go through all 22 of the regular carts and go through all 4 of these bad boys right here, these four arcade carts, you know, I think we're going to do some of those longer series, kind of similar to what I'm doing with Golden Axe Warrior, where I'm going to try to go through those longer games, the games I really wanted to play. We're going to play them along with you guys, sometimes live, sometimes not, sometimes with guides, sometimes with not. So that'll be cool, and I hope you will enjoy those too. So anyway, we're going to have a pretty good size topic list to talk about tomorrow. If you guys haven't heard yet, there has been some huge announcements lately coming out of Team Evercade. So we're going to talk about those tomorrow on the Evercast. And of course, we're going to be starting to get into this Technos card. We're going to do the top 4 here. That's Mysterious Stones, Blackout, Combat Tribes, and Double Dragon 2 Arcade. So that way we can do the rest of them on next Saturday. So the cast might be a little small. I think we've got somebody needs to take a knee for the day, but that's all right. The cast will go on. We will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. EST. But until then, catch you next time for some good times. I'm Rich. We'll see you later. Take it easy, guys.
RTFC.baconicecream.com